So today we're going to be doing something a little bit different. Something came in the mail. It's pretty funny. This is a package for the mailman's car, and I don't know if the mailman knew it, but these are some brakes for his 350Z. So I just went with some Amazon Powerstop brakes here. They're not Amazon's brand, but Powerstop is the brand. Put the same brakes in my truck. They're carbon fiber ceramic. They worked really well in my truck. I don't know if I would say the braking performance was drastically better, but I like the way the kit installed, and I thought that it was a nice kit. So I went ahead and ordered the same one for him because he was looking for a slight upgrade. See if I can get this out of here. But yeah, this kit is just pads and rotors. Nothing crazy, no calipers or anything like that. But there's the rotors, or one of them anyway. Nice cross drilled and slotted. Should give him good heat dissipation when he's braking hard at the racetrack. Or, you know, like driving to church or something, whatever he does. Probably driving to the golf course, actually. But yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and get the car pulled in the garage and we can get to work installing these brakes here. Oh, these are little. I'm used to truck brakes. These are really little. So I got the car all up in the garage here. I'm going to start by jacking it up, putting jack stands underneath it. Yeah, so let's get started here. Alright, that should be good for that side. I'm going to get my air gun set up and we'll bust the wheel off here. So first, our wheel's coming off. I got a 21mm socket right here. Alright, that should be all of them. Sometimes you gotta give it a little love tap to get it off. Alright, so now we can have a look at our brakes. Okay, so now that we have the wheel off, we can take a look inside here and we can see this is our caliper right here and this is our bracket. So first things first, we're going to have to take the caliper off of the bracket, and we can do so by removing this 14, and down here there's another 14. So after we take out those 14mm bolts, our caliper should come right off. And after we get the caliper off, we're going to lay it up here, and we're going to bust these two bracket bolts loose, which are 18mm. They can be pretty tight, but we'll see if we can get them. And then after that, we should be able to just take our rotor right off and put our new rotor on. So we're going to get to it. I am on the other side of the car now because I just wanted to demonstrate that both sides are exactly the same. So no need to show both sides. Okay, got that one. I can get this one by hand now. Alright, so these bolts right here are actually very long pins, and what they do is they go all the way through here and into the bracket. So if you take them out, you'll notice that there's a bit of grease on them, and just make sure your caliper doesn't fall. I'm going to put these down as to not get any sand on the end of the bolt where there's grease, and then I'll gently remove our caliper. Looks like it's a little bit full of rust and dirt, but I'm going to set it up here for now. You don't want this hose to become too tight or be under too much tension, because in that case you could make a leak here, and you don't want to do that. So a good idea is to bungee cord this. You could bungee cord it to this brake line right here, or I'm just going to hang it over the control arm for now because it seems pretty safe there. But yeah, so now we're taking a look at our brake pads right here, and we should just be able to slide these guys out. And so we can take a look at that and see that we did have a little bit of life left on these pads, but they definitely needed to be changed soon. So I would say it's a good time to change them. Take off our rear pad as well. And this one actually is much thinner. Yeah, you can tell the difference here in thickness. But let me go grab one of the new pads. So here's what it looks like up against a new pad. I'll take down this worn pad right here. There's your new pad, and there is your used pad. So this marker is completely gone on this one, so these brakes are definitely in need of replacement. So we are going to get to doing that. So now what I'm going to do is take out these little clips here, and these are the clips that hold the brake pads in. We have a selection of new ones over here that they've given us. There's quite a few to choose from, so I'm going to see if I can tell if they look different or not. So after you take out your clips there, you are ready to take off your bracket itself. We have to remove the bracket because we are replacing the rotor, and the only way to get the rotor off is by taking off this bracket first. So a neat little trick here that I'm going to try to show you is I'm having a tough time with these bolts in the back of our bracket. So they're a 19 millimeter and they're really tight, and it's really tough for me to get an impact gun on it. So I'm going to try to use a double wrench technique here. So you'll see I've got one wrench on the actual bolt itself, and right here I've connected two wrenches together, putting one inside of the other. So we'll see if we can use this to get it loose, because it's pretty tight. So we'll see if we can get it loose. And we did. So it still took some effort, but that was much easier than if I had tried to do it with just this one wrench here. So I'm going to get this the rest of the way out, and then we'll use the double wrench method on the other bolt, and we'll have the bracket off. So I've gone ahead and got this other bolt loose here in the bracket. It was more difficult than the bottom one, but I was able to get it with the double wrench method there. Sometimes you just gotta get a better angle on it. So now we have our bracket here. We'll set this to the side along with the two bolts, so that we know the way everything goes back together. One of these little boots fell off here, but I'm not terribly worried because the kit did come with new boots. So we can go ahead and take these off. So now we gotta go about getting this rotor off. Looks like we might have something to take off right here. We're gonna see. There. Alright, so now that we got this rotor loose, took a little bit more smacking than I thought it would, but I don't think these have been off in a while. So, we got our rotor off, and we're ready to install our new one. So I'm going to go grab that. So we got our new rotor on right here. This guy, you can see here it says rear driver side. That's because these rotors are directional. The way this slit faces, when the rotor's spinning like this, you want the brake dust to get evacuated from the rotor like that. So that's the purpose of that. And these holes are supposed to be for cooling. Probably not too necessary for street driving, but it's fine. They look pretty cool. Another thing to note is sometimes rotors come with a little bit of an oil spray on them, and that's just to keep them from rusting during shipping and storage. You'll want to clean that off with brake clean. These rotors didn't have any on them, so we're going to be okay with that. But yeah, now we're just going to get started with the reassembly here. I'm going to go get the little clips that go in our bracket, and we'll go from there. So we have our bracket right here, and we're going to want to take these clips. Now, I was speaking before about the variety of clips that it came with, and I found that the larger clips do a much better job because the smaller clips are actually hitting on the rotor once I put it together. So they fit in there like that. Pretty straightforward, but you get these guys all set in place here. Make sure that your little pins are lining up on the inside, and just push them down as good as you can. And then we'll get this guy like this on our car, and then we'll get our 19mm, drop the washer, 19mm bolts started, just like so. Got one started, and this one is started as well. So I had taken these guys off prior. Our kit comes with new rubbers right here, and this is where the pins ride. So here's our new pieces of rubber here. So we're just going to put these on the back of our bracket. Could do this beforehand. It might be a bit easier than doing it when it's on the car, but that's just fine. We'll see if we can get it anyway. Alright, so now that those are on, we can get to putting our pads on. So you want to make a note of which pad comes off from where. So I know on this particular car, the pad with this metal pin was in the back. So we're going to line this up. And the pads just fit in the grooves of those little metal clips that you put in, and they should just fit right into place back here. You could do this beforehand as well. Might be a little bit easier. This back one can give you a little bit of trouble. Alright, so after we've just got our bracket on loosely and have our pads in there, what we need to do now is compress our caliper piston. So this right here is the piston. When you press on the brakes, the fluid comes through the line and pushes this piston out, which clamps the brake pads onto the rotor. This is just a pair of pliers. I use this for oil filters, and I also use it to squeeze these pistons on calipers. But there's a special tool for this, but you don't necessarily need it. You just want to apply light pressure. Don't force it, but it'll slowly start to go back inside, and then we can get a different grip here. Trying to keep everything in view of the camera for you, but just on a different grip, you can see I get a little bit more travel. And that's pretty much it. We're bottomed out. You really only have to go as far as you need to fit it over your pads. So once you fit it over your brake pads like that, you'll want to get your rubber all set up so that you know when you put the bolts in, they're going to go through it. And you can just let it hang out there. So what I like to do now is I have a little bit of white grease here, and I'm going to dip the bolt in like this. After I put some grease on it, I like to just smooth it in like this. And you want to take note of which pin you got from where, because in a lot of cases, you can see on this car, this pin has a piece of black rubber right here. And we actually have a new one, so I'm going to go ahead and throw that new rubber piece onto this bolt. And this bolt goes in the top location. So I'm going to put that new piece of rubber on, and then we'll pick up from there once I've got those two bolts greased up and started. So I've got just about everything tightened down. The only thing I have left to do is I'm going to get in the car and I'm going to pump the brakes a little bit, because when we compressed our caliper piston, we moved it away. So it's going to take a few pumps of the pedal before the piston gets out far enough to actually start braking. So it's not as important in the back, because in most cars the rear brakes do maybe 10 to 15% of the braking. Front brakes are where most of the braking happens. Not as important in the rear, but it's a good practice to get into whenever you do brakes, to pump the pedal from the inside. So if you guys watch right there, I'm going to pump the brake pedal and maybe you'll be able to see it move. Yeah, after that first press, the pedal got much firmer. So I think we are grabbing brake back there. Now all that's left is for me to put the wheel back on, and then we will take it for a test drive and do the break-in procedure, since these are ceramic brake pad and require a break-in. So we're on our little test drive here, and we're trying to make sure that the brakes are going to function properly. So what we need to do is a break-in procedure. So we're going to get the car up to about, I'd say, 40 miles an hour, and then we're going to go and do some heavy braking and get it down going really slow. And then shift back down into first, and then we'll get it up to 40 miles an hour once again. And then we'll brake hard again. Probably making you sick, Jake. Sorry. Nah, that's good. So then we'll get going again. We'll do one more heavy braking application. And then we want to go for a little bit of a cool down. Now you can brake in brakes longer than this, but these are only rear brakes. If we had done front brakes on his car, I would do more, but rears only do, like I said, about 10 to 15% of the braking, so it's not too big of a deal. I think these brakes will probably be broken in. I'll brake hard coming up to this next stop sign, and then our braking procedure should be complete.